You know that feeling when you wake up tired, even after a full night's sleep, when you push through your day running on empty, wondering where your energy went? Here's something most people don't know, that fatigue may actually be happening inside your cells. That's why I've been using anti-factor lipids powder from Nutritional Therapeutics for years. I don't go a day without it. It's based on over 20 years of research and a patented process called membrane lipid replacement, which actually repairs the damaged components of your cell membranes, restoring your cell's ability to produce energy the way they did when you were younger. Clinical studies show anti-factor can reduce fatigue by up to 40%. Just 1 or 2 scoops a day. Mix it in a smoothie like I do, sprinkle it on food, and you're giving your body the science of youthful energy. Anti-Factor Lipids Powder comes in 2 convenient sizes. For more information and to order, just call 800-982-9158, 800-982-9158, or go to antifactor.com. That's antifactor.com for Anti-Factor Lipids Powder. Welcome to today's Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ronald Hoffman. It's our weekly Q&A with Leyla, which is pretty darn near my favorite time of the week because we get an opportunity to answer your questions. Your questions are always thought-provoking and trigger fascinating conversations with my interlocutor, who is Leyla Muden. Each week, we answer your questions. Questions come to questions@drhoffman.net. And so how you doing, Leyla?
Okay. How are you doing, Dr. Hoffman?
Good. Getting a little whipsawed by the weather here because it's like 75 degrees and then it's like it's going to go down to 32 degrees tonight and it's kind of cold. And when you go out in the street, there's 2 types of people. There are people wearing tank tops and there are people wearing snorkel jackets. They can't quite figure it out.
Right.
Know?
Yeah. I've turned my furnace off. I'm done.
Yeah.
Too bad. If it gets cold, too bad.
Yeah. So, my antidote to the slightly chilly spring weather is I've been spending a lot of time in the sauna, half an hour this morning at 180 degrees. And, at least I can...
The benefit to sauna is it's wonderful detox.
Yeah,
it's
wonderful
good.
detox. Now, they say, there's a study out this week, and I'll talk about it on my show this week, which says that saunas reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease by 70%. Now, the problem is, here's the problem, is in order to tolerate a sauna, you actually have to be in fairly good condition. If you are on your last legs and you're taking a bunch of medications that prevent you from sweating and actually interfere with your ability to tolerate heat, which many of these medications do, you can't die. Sauna. So this is an associative study. So it may be that it is correlation, not causation. In other words, people who can sauna are generally healthier and they have a reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, not because they sauna, maybe to some extent because they sauna. Because I look at my pulse when I'm in there. I got an Apple Watch, which fortunately doesn't melt when I'm in there. And my pulse gets up to, 80 or 85. Just from sitting there. My baseline pulse is like 55. So it is almost like a mini workout for your cardiovascular system. Yeah.
It is. And by increasing body temperature slightly, that's good too for immunity.
Yeah.
All of that.
Heat shock protein, it sort of builds resilience, so they say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we actually are circling back on a question we had last week. We had a woman who said that she did not tolerate the medication Crestor and had liver abnormalities. And the doctor said, okay, I'm going to reduce your Crestor to every other day. It was for, the lowest dose. She didn't even tolerate.
5 milligrams, yeah.
And then he said, take it every other day and then take some milk thistle with it because milk thistle will protect your liver. So what my hunch was that, and I just said this off the top of my head without looking it up. I said, milk thistle actually vitiates or reduces the effectiveness of many medications.
Yes.
So I said, maybe, I think the doctor was well-meaning. Hey, kudos to him for actually talking about a natural supplement and suggesting it to a patient. The idea was to protect the liver. Milk thistle is actually good for alcoholic toxicity to the liver. It actually is something that is a liver supportive nutrient. So we might say, okay, we're going to protect your liver. But my hunch was, and I said this on the air last week during Q&A with Leyla, that it could reduce the effectiveness of the statin drug, which is kind of counterproductive because why take it if you're going to take something that interferes with its efficacy? Okay, so we looked it up. We did a little research on it. And it's kind of complicated because some statins have their effect augmented by, so in other words,
by reducing the clearance of it.
Exactly. Yeah. This is what's sometimes referred to as the grapefruit effect. Grapefruits interfere with many statins in the sense that they'll actually potentize them.
Yes.
They'll make them stronger. So if you have muscle aches or if you have liver abnormalities, you might make them worse by taking certain statins. On the other hand, when I looked up Crestor specifically, it says there's no interaction. There is no interaction. So it's kind of like, it's not going to protect the liver necessarily. Maybe it might, but it's not going to reduce or increase the efficacy of the medication. So this is a time to talk a little bit about drug-nutrient interactions. And
there are differences.
There are, in my mind, there are three types. There's one where something may augment the effect of a medication, such as the grapefruit effect. If you take grapefruit with your statin, you're going to actually increase the efficacy of the statin, but you might also increase the risk of side effects. It actually keeps it in your system longer. There's also the vitiation effect or interference effect where, for example, St. John's wort might actually reduce the efficacy of certain medications. It's actually been known to sometimes reduce the effectiveness of oral contraceptives, which could be problematic.
Yes, and milk thistle actually is shown to decrease the effectiveness of oral contraceptives as well as the antibiotic flagyl.
Okay.
That it may, it increases the clearance of it. So it doesn't have the time to work as hard because it's increasing the clearance of it. Yes?
Now, these days, it used to require an expert medical nutritionist like you to pour through all these interactions because you can't memorize them all. There's infinite
you have to look them up.
Possibilities. There's thousands of natural products and there's thousands of drugs. So, the possibilities are endless. So, but now through the internet and through AI, you can actually make, just put in an inquiry, this drug plus this herb, is there an interaction? You write drug nutrient interaction, and then it'll spit it out. AI will do it for you, or just conventional search.
Right.
So, but
drugs.com.
Yeah. So, I think it's important because, see, what tends to happen in conventional medicine is they say, well, you're on a lot of medication. Don't take any herbs. And why? Because they don't know. They suspect that there might be an interaction, but in a more precision medicine, we might say, hey, there might be a helpful effect, or there might be negligible effect. We need to look at every instance rather than throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Absolutely, yeah.
How many times a week do you do this with your clients?
Often. Probably not every visit because so many of my clients are not on any prescription medications at all. In fact, they ask me about, I'm taking this supplement. Will it interfere with a different type of supplement for a different reason? There's that as well. So we have that conversation.
Supplement interactions.
Food they're eating. Yeah. And I would have trouble thinking of an example right now because that is extremely rare. That there will be a supplement reaction.
That's much less common than with medications, which are stronger. Yeah.
Right. So there is that. I mean, there are certain things that may increase or exacerbate a condition like high blood pressure, for example. If they're drinking licorice tea every day, thinking they're helping their adrenals, they're helping them to increase their blood pressure. So that's an example.
And especially if you're taking a steroid, if you're taking prednisone and you take licorice tea, it could really augment that reaction, and you could actually become high in sodium, retain a lot of sodium, actually get swelling and water retention, and you might actually deplete your potassium dangerously, which can cause cardiac arrhythmia. So that's one of the reactions that we really look out for. We have to be careful. I like me some licorice tea now and then. If I get, sometimes I don't know, maybe I'm taking too many vitamins. I get a little heartburn or a little irritation. Licorice tea really solves it for me.
It's good. That's
Yeah.
good. For those people who where licorice is contraindicated, take some DGL, deglycerated licorice.
The DGL.
Glyceric acid is
Take it
gone.
out.
That's the potential for
Right.
decreasing potassium, increasing blood pressure, all of that.
Right.
Working that way.
And finally, you did a podcast because,
Yes.
as some of our listeners may not yet be aware, you do podcasts of your own. They're available via drhoffman.com, via our portal, and via, Apple Podcasts, all the places where intelligent medicine is heard. And this one kind of hit you hard emotionally. You kind of had an emotional reaction.
It did. Yeah, because I still can't believe this is happening in my lifetime, that there's this lineup of Maha, headed up by RFK Jr., we've got Mehmet Oz, you've got Jay Bhattacharya, we've got Marty Macquarie. I mean, these are all stars.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful. And RFK Jr. has been going around the country on a Take Your Health Back tour, getting hospitals and health systems to sign on to looking at nutrition as medicine, listing it actually as medicine,
right?
Demanding that nutrition care manuals are updated instead of the cardiac prudent diet, which is low fat, and a lot of processed food, to really go with what the science is actually telling us. And that the inverted pyramid is true. We're meant to be eating this way, not the way that we were told before. And getting the hospitals to sign on by hooking up with their local farmers, it's matching just in time because they are incentivizing, just previous to this, a few months ago, they listed incentives for farmers to go regenerative agriculture. So they're incentivizing the farmers to do that instead of the monolithic agriculture, just growing wheat or just growing corn or soybeans or something like that.
Monoculture,
monoculture. Instead now, by using regenerative agricultural principles, then you get more of the farm to table, farm to hospital tray, all of that, linking all of this together. And he's literally on a tour going around the country, getting hospitals and health systems to sign on. This particular article was about the Children's Hospital in Florida. So I'm just thrilled to death.
Yep.
This is happening, and I'm seeing this happen in my lifetime. Because back in my dietitian days, hospital dietitian days, over 20 years ago, I said, how am I helping this person?
Yeah.
I'm not helping them.
Yeah.
Because, here's my example. Here's a 38-year-old diabetic man who's in the hospital to get a below-the-knee amputation.
Wow.
Because his diabetes is so bad. And what arrives for him for breakfast? The diabetes diet, a bowl of oatmeal, a few packets of sugar, some cranberry juice, a banana, some applesauce. Are you kidding? I guess they want him to come back for the other below-the-knee amputation.
As long as it was low fat, they probably gave him some margarine or something on the side.
Yes. Oh my God. And I just look and say, I'm contributing to his demise if I can't talk to him about what they're feeding him for breakfast. Anyway, I'm so happy to see this.
Right.
During my career.
Or give him a can of Ensure,
Yeah. Oh, that's the other.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So, look, I mean, I think some people who are really stalwart advocates of Maha can be a little frustrated because we're not really achieving all our goals. There's been some real pushback on regulations about glyphosate, for example.
Yes.
And, I think that's really a disappointment to people in Maha and other kinds of, shall we say, cop-outs by Maha.
Yeah.
But at the very least, you've got a team there at HHS who are a bully pulpit to move the health of Americans forward and at least make Americans conscious, if they have their ears open, about the importance of nutrition, the importance of lifestyle factors. And we also have an administration that is more hospitable to nutritional supplements. I don't know if we'll see permanent changes, but we're working on it.
We're working on it. And that's it. And that's the best we can do. And I'll take it. And I'm very encouraged. So yeah. Yeah.
Got you a little
Hopefully
choked
more
up,
of the
huh?
same.
Just to,
It did.
yeah.
It really did. Towards the end of it, I was choking back tears. I actually was and said, "Oh my God, this is actually happening. Yay." So yeah. I was doing a little jig of joy.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Just talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to drop, this
Friday.
week. So yeah, great.
Mm-hmm.
So
Friday.
find Layla's podcasts. They appear each Friday. All right. Fantastic. Let's get to questions. Questions come to questions@drhoffman.net. And before we get to questions, though, let us take care of business. TCB, take care of business. Taking care of business. We're going to allow one of our sponsors an opportunity to share an important message with you. So here goes. Listen up.
Now, more than ever, it is important to have a healthy immune system. Many health professionals agree that probiotics are a leading natural therapy for boosting immune health. Why? Because 70% of your body's immune cells reside in the GI tract. By taking a superior probiotic daily, like Dr. Ohhira's probiotics, you can enhance your overall immune system and immune response. The key to Dr. Ohhira's success is the 500-plus postbiotic metabolites that are in each capsule. Postbiotic metabolites are important to the regulation of most systems in our body. For a short-term immune boost, try Dr. Ohhira's Propolis Plus. Merging nature and science, Dr. Ohhira's Propolis Plus combines Brazilian green propolis, vitamin E, astaxanthin, and tocotrienols for additional and powerful immune support. Be proactive about your immune health. Ask your retailer today about Dr. Ohhira's probiotics and Dr. Ohhira's Propolis Plus today. Also available online.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting our sponsors. They are what make Intelligent Medicine a continuing free resource to you. And we actually signed up recently some, I think, really exciting sponsors. We're going to have a sponsor who's going to be talking about nitric oxide and, supporting NO. It's Nathan Bryant, who's, I think, perhaps the country's foremost expert on nitric oxide supplementation. Did a lot of research at, I think, at the University of Texas. He is going to become a sponsor with, I think, a really unique, very bioavailable form of nitric oxide. And then, all our usual lineup of sponsors. I actually have had the opportunity to talk to Jeffrey Bland, Dr. Jeffrey Bland, a couple of times.
Oh, wonderful.
To talk about fish oil, because Big Bold Health makes a great fish oil. And the whole roster of our sponsors, I think, are doing a great job. So thanks to them. And let's get a preview of what we're going to talk about.
Okay. Our next question is from Judy. What are your thoughts on low-dose saw palmetto for hair growth?
Okay.
I recently read an article on how it improves hair density and hair growth.
So saw palmetto has a reputation as being helpful for the prostate. And why is that? Saw palmetto is a weak 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. What that does is it actually interferes with the production of a type of bad testosterone. That bad testosterone is associated with enlargement of the prostate. And it's actually the basis for drugs like Proscar and Avodart. And these are drugs that shrink the prostate, but they're powerful drugs, and they actually may obliterate this type of bad testosterone, which for many men has good effects on the prostate, but also on hair. That was actually a beneficial side effect, just like Viagra was a cardiovascular drug, and then they said, it helps my sexual performance. The additional side benefit to Proscar and Avodart was that it preserved men's hair because it affects the type of bad testosterone receptors that are in the hair follicles. And we know that hormones determine hair loss to some extent. And if we block that testosterone, we're going to get less hair loss. That's not the
DH testosterone or something.
Right, dehydrotestosterone. Okay.
Yeah.
So the problem is that I think saw palmetto is a very weak 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. And it is, I think, somewhat helpful for preventing prostate enlargement, but it by no means as dramatic in its effects as the drugs. But that's actually a good thing, because doctors are, many years after the introduction of these drugs, doctors are seeing emerging side effects associated with these 5-alpha reductase drugs, namely on mood and libido.
Wow.
And they're actually, and it's variable, because I've talked to some men who take these drugs and they say they're fine. Libido's fine, mood is fine. And then there are other men who really have, because it's a type of testosterone, they're actually having brain effects, because testosterone works in the brain, and it may reduce motivation or cause mood alterations or even depression in some men, and it may also affect sexual performance. So there's actually a whole website devoted to the adverse effects of that, and with testimonials that are, horror stories about what happened to men, and the problem is it's long lasting. So coming back to the saw palmetto, I guess the good thing about saw palmetto is it's much less powerful and efficacious.
Yeah.
And it's not going to cause the side effects, but I don't see a big role for it in hair preservation, because it's a weak 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. But
even in women, because Judy is female. Yeah. So
I mean, women take it, and it's in hair formulas.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I don't see the science as being very strong on it.
Okay. So saw palmetto probably wouldn't be the first choice. What I would say to Judy is, do you have hypothyroidism? You want to look for the cause of the hair loss. Make sure that's taken care of, that's straightened out. Do you have a low ferritin level?
Do you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, which decreases your androgens? Yeah. Right.
I know that Judy is a woman over 60. So, look for low ferritin levels. Look for, stress will do it. High cortisol levels. Are you not sleeping well? That could cause hair loss.
Autoimmunity.
Sure. Things like that. And again, if you're looking for any side effects, she's also asking if there are any side effects taking it with warfarin. Go to drugs.com. Go to these places.
I don't think so.
Yeah. But, so many things interfere with warfarin on it. Yeah. But Judy, saw palmetto wouldn't be the first choice. Find out the root cause.
Adequate iron, adequate protein, that whole thing.
Yeah. Yes, adequate protein. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. We've got an email from Rich. I've been a long-time listener of Dr. Hoffman. I really appreciate all the valuable health information over the years. I recently heard someone call in and ask about the safety of certain natural sweeteners, but did not bring up monk fruit extract. What do you think of monk fruit extract? Well, monk fruit extract, like the fruit it is like it's got some fructose, or it's a derivative of. It's very low on the glycemic index, which is a good thing. So if you're going to choose one, that might be the one. But if you've got hyperinsulinism or anything like that, metabolic syndrome, you really want to cut your use of sweeteners altogether, because that could still spike insulin, as do all the natural sweeteners.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fake ones as well. People bring up stevia all the time. Well, but stevia is natural. Why can't I take it? Because it could still promote some insulin resistance, or keep it there if you're already there. You want to be able to turn that metabolic abnormality around. We're not going to do that if we're going to keep feeding our sugar craving. We need to just stop it. We need to just stop it, or use it very seldom.
The analogy that I give, and it's a little bit of an unpleasant analogy, is what if we gave every convicted sex offender in America unlimited access to pornography? Pornography, you don't touch anybody, you don't molest anyone. What's the problem? Well, the problem is that it's kind of like a low-cal sweetener. It actually continues to maintain your interest,
you're fanning the flames.
Where eventually you may actually act out on it, with some act, of, sexual transgression. And again, it's kind of an overwrought analogy because we're putting sugar addiction on the plane with,
But in your defense, Dr. Hoffman, it's still addiction.
Yeah.
People don't believe that it is. That's why it's so hard to give it up.
Yeah.
For most people.
And some studies do suggest that when people are given something sweet that doesn't deliver calories, they will then seek out carbohydrates in a delivery system elsewhere. They're going to find it because they peaked their. It's actually physiologic, as you say. You may actually get an insulin response from something that delivers no calories.
No calories. And again, this is the argument still with, they still talk about calories in, calories out. You're talking about 0 calories, so there should be no consequence, right? But there is. It's the hormones. Insulin is a very important hormone. But if you're taking something with 0 calories and it's spiking your insulin, you'd metabolically put yourself in fat storage mode, at least for a little while.
Yep. Good point.
And that's what you don't want.
So, and with a couple of things, I mean, we've already known that things like NutraSweet and
one of the worst ones,
and Splenda, that they have harmful effects. At the very
and
least,
erythritol.
I'm about to talk about erythritol.
Yeah.
At the very least, they upset the microbiome. They may damage the microbiome, which is not a good thing. Now, erythritol is coming into the crosshairs because it's been associated with higher risk of cardiovascular disease, strokes, and potentially heart attacks. Now, I'm not saying that if you took a little erythritol, you're immediately going to get a heart attack, but if you have cardiovascular risk, you might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. People consume a lot of erythritol because it's a sweetener used in a lot of, quote, healthy bars, low-calorie bars, protein bars. It's also in Truvia. Truvia is stevia plus erythritol because stevia, while delivering sweetness, also has kind of a bitter aftertaste. So to mitigate that, they blend stevia with erythritol in Truvia. And I got to say, I used to consume that stuff. I'm going to get off that because I'm a little bit concerned about the potential for risk. I mean, I didn't think I was going to, curl up and die, but I think that there's some legitimate concern about erythritol. So erythritol, less likely to be a good substitute. Maybe stevia, okay, although there are some animal studies where they feed animals massive amounts of stevia that would be virtually unconsumed, like rats, getting what would be the equivalent of a pound of stevia. You don't have to feed a high volume weight to a little rat that weighs 6 ounces to get the equivalent of a human consuming a half pound or a kilo of this. So anyway, so stevia, pretty safe, not that gratifying. There's also
allulose is the
allulose. I don't know if there's, sometimes after a while there's a knock on some of these things. So far it seems safe.
Gastric upset.
Yeah, any of those can cause gastric. Any of them.
As do all the sugar alcohols.
All the sugar alcohols.
So there is that. And may I just note, Dr. Hoffman, I'm a fan of Earl Grey tea too.
What?
I drink mine straight up, and it's just delicious. And that beautiful wafting of the bergamot.
Yeah.
Earl Grey tea.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just drink it straight up.
It has a natural sweetness to it. You don't need to add sugar to it.
You don't need it. Exactly.
Yes. Apropos, I'm just going to chew a little bit of spry gum, which is actually good for the teeth. But if I chomp and have too much of that, it might actually have a laxative effect.
Exactly. And people wonder, and it's in a lot of low carb products, xylitol, any of the other sugar alcohols like sorbitol, maltitol, and they're wondering why they're kind of getting crampy, gassy, very loose stools, diarrhea, all that kind of thing. It's too much sugar alcohol. There is an upper tolerable limit. I think for many people, it may be about 20 milligrams of it. Or do I need to say grams of it?
I think we're talking grams, because milligrams is a very small amount.
Yeah, because I think in like a protein bar of any sort, sweetened with sugar alcohol, like in a low carb product, it would be about 22 grams of the sugar alcohol.
Wow.
And Sometimes having a second bar, yeah, that brings them over the edge. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Rich, thank you for your question
Good question.
about monk fruit. Okay.
Please give us a preview of what we're going to tackle in part 2, because we divide our podcast into 2 parts.
Whoa, it's the end of part 1 just flew by. Michael is asking, would taking strontium be advisable to facilitate the healing of some lumbar fractures, or is it preventive?
Okay. Good question. When we return, I'm Dr. Ronald Hoffman, today with Leyla Mutin. It's our weekly Q&A with Leyla, and you can get in on the action with a question or a comment. And we appreciate comments as well. Perhaps we've said something that triggers some sort of reaction on your part, or you have an experience to share with us. Questions at drhoffman.net. Place to send questions. We'll be right back with more of today's Q&A with Leyla. So listen up for your question. If you send a question, we'll eventually get to it. This is the Intelligent Medicine Podcast.